Good day, everybody. Dave Walker here with the Beta SMB Institute. And in our continuing series of showcasing our nominees for 2021 Best SMB Brands, I am very happy to be joined for the first time ever at one of our conferences, the co-founder and CEO of Biz2Credit, Rohit Arora. Rohit, good morning.
Yeah, it's thank you for the invite, and it's my pleasure to be talking to you today.
And in your case, it's actually not good morning because you're coming all the way from India with an excellent connection, which
good evening. Now India has seen an internet revolution, a broadband revolution, I have to say, in the last 2 years. So it's a very good connectivity.
That's great. Terrific. Yeah. Well, listen, I don't want to presume that everyone in our audience knows your company, knows you. So why don't you just briefly give us an introduction to Biz2Credit?
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question, because Biz2Credit as a company, me and my brother, we founded it in late 2007, early 2008. Like all startups, the actual date is not very clear when it was formed, And so we started it in New York. So we are, both of us are first generation immigrants from India. And so we started the company in New York, and there was a big reason behind it. Being in New York, being such a multicultural and a multiracial kind of environment and a huge hub for small businesses, we were seeing that how, small businesses were underserved, even in the credit capital of the country. They had very little knowledge about what products they could get, how they could get. And when we were scratching the surface, we found that problem was even more acute with the minority and underserved and women-owned small businesses. So that gave us an idea that why don't we set up something which will be an online platform. So I'm talking about pre-fintech days. I'm talking about, days when smartphone was just coming out. Steve Jobs had just launched the iPhone version 1 sometime in end of 2007. And one thing that we were figuring out was that, now everybody will have internet in their hands. And this is a great time to actually create an online platform where SMBs could come in and look at what credit options they have, and then we can match them with the right options. And we were very clear from day one that we will handle end-to-end, do all the heavy lifting, end-to-end heavy lifting, and not just do a lead generation and sell the leads over to the lenders. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so when you have this focus on money, which is obviously the heart of a successful small business operation. They have to have money to capitalize, to run their business. Give us kind of a before and after of before the pandemic hit. What were the money needs that you were addressing with small businesses, and how did they change in this last 18 months with the pandemic?
Yeah, no, I think very, very important question in my view. So what was happening before the COVID crisis hit the country was that, the small businesses were actually doing pretty well during especially they got really benefited by the tax cuts which were instituted by Trump administration, huge contribution to their bottom line. And we were seeing, businesses were growing at a fairly decent clip. There were headwinds in terms of minimum wages being going up, especially for retail loan businesses. But overall, it was still a pretty strong economy, and businesses were going, decently well. One thing which was missing in most of these small businesses at that point of time was that they were not really using digital technologies as much as we thought they will use. So it was moving at a decent clip, but nothing really earth-shattering kind of stuff. What COVID did was something very, very interesting. So I remember distinctly, March 13th, 2020, when, President finally declared that, it was a pandemic, and things started changing very dramatically. We saw it in the hospitality industry. We saw it in retail industry. We saw it across the board in small businesses. So there was a tremendous amount of panic and concern of the unknown in terms of virus. The workers of small businesses were extremely scared to even come to work. And small business owners themselves were very, very concerned because the economic activity just stopped suddenly. Mm-hmm. At that point of time, it looked a lot worse than the 2008 crisis, because obviously 2008 crisis was not a crisis which was either started by small businesses, or they eventually they suffered the most in that crisis also. But at least the economic activity was still going on. And while March of 2020, economic activity totally stopped. So next 3-4 weeks were really very scary for all of us, but especially for small businesses who had these payrolls to run, who had rent checks to write, who had the need to keep their businesses open somehow. And everybody was very, very concerned. What started happening sometime in April is that as the government started coming with the stimulus packages, and I would have to say that as the government rolled out the PPP program in a great rush, which had positives and negatives, and people got used or adapted to the digital environment, in my view, much faster than I was expecting at that point of time. That also shows the human resilience and the ability to find the way out of any adversity. So starting in mid of April, things started changing. Government money started flowing in. A lot of small business owners started figuring out alternative ways of doing business. Some sectors in the SMB actually started doing pretty well, like IT companies, any company that had to do with online work. Healthcare was actually a mixed bag. So anybody who was in urgent care business was started doing very well. Anybody who had more specialized operations out there actually suffered a lot. Then I think May, June, July, things got better, obviously because of the prompt action by the government. A lot of money was flowing in. And I think people had also figured out that digital was the way to go. And digital at one end was frustrating for a lot of people to adapt to. And at the other end, it increased the efficiency of doing business tremendously. Once small businesses realize that they can make their people work remotely, especially those who are not in food or hotel business, they actually quickly realize the benefits of that. And they also realize the fact that a lot of work that small businesses assumed have to have happen in an office can be done remotely. And that was a big game changer in terms of mindset of businesses wanting to go digital, use digital tools, and also the adaptability of people working remotely.
So as you're responding to, as Business Credit is responding to those changes, which you very well articulated is going on in your small business customer base, how are you guys adapting through that process? And how does it extend into 2021 and what you've continued to adapt as, was it, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so again, I think what we did was that initially when the COVID hit, we were also trying to figure out the ways of how we can help small businesses, what we can do with the government programs, what we can do with some of the other aid programs which had started. And also we saw that there was a subset of businesses which needed even more money. People who were selling on Amazon, or people who had a digital presence, or IT companies, or even liquor stores or grocery stores. Those are the kind of businesses which the sales went through the roof. So we actually segregated businesses very, very quickly into low risk, medium risk, high risk kind of stuff. And we went back to all our debt investors, gave them all the data, presented to them that it's not like every business has come to halt. There are sub-segments which are suffering majorly, and there are sub-segments which are doing extremely well. And what we did, like any other business, was that we adapted ourselves. So we were already pretty focused on digital channels and running a business online much prior to the crisis. But during the crisis, it also forced us to adapt ourselves to doing everything remotely. So what I mean is that, we were very firm believers that a lot of our people should actually be in the office, underwriting folks and salespeople and all that, because it leads to more collaboration, it leads to greater learning and everything. What we actually found out, to our surprise, was that a lot of this stuff can be done remotely. A lot of this stuff can be done online, and people will actually, they won't learn as much as they will learn face to face, but still the learning will be pretty decent. The other thing we found out was that small businesses adapted to digital platforms like fish to a water kind of stuff. It was like very seamless I would say, transition of small businesses who were earlier more interested in talking to someone and trying to, have a chat with someone, trying to just understand online platforms, to just figuring it out themselves, going fully online, and their ability to do things on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I think same thing happened with our co-workers, where they also found ways that if they're sitting at home, how to become more self-reliant, how to get work done even faster.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got our license from the government to do PPP lending sometime in May, we also figured out that, actually now the only game in town is digital.
Mm-hmm.
And since we were already a digital first player earlier, we found that that was a great advantage for us. And that was also something that we could provide a great service to our existing clients as well as prospective clients. So I think overall, I've seen more change happening in last 18 months that I've seen in last, I would say, at least 12 or 13 years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So in the process of of responding as a business to the specific demands that the small business customers had of your business, of your historical offering, what were some of the other things that you did above and beyond what you had historically done, because you really, frankly, recognized that small businesses needed that over and above help?
Yeah, so I think, again, a very relevant question. So we did three things very distinct during the crisis. One was that we were already very engaged with our customers in the digital environment, but we focused a lot more on content generation, on relevant content generation, about crisis, about how to get funding, what to do, kind of stuff. So our teams did almost 2 or 3 webinars a week. We recorded them, we put it on in an online resource, kind of a tool, and we gave access to it to all our users. And we were starting to get so many new users during the crisis. Second thing, we worked with the government very closely to get the PPP license so that we can help people with digital delivery of government programs, which in the past we had seen that whatever well-meaning programs the government was developing, since the delivery mechanisms were non-digital, even during the last crisis, it actually prolongated the crisis a lot more than what it should have been. So this time, at least, by having the digital channels and the digital interventions, one could prevent that. And that's what we did a lot. So one was education. Second was providing a great digital access, great user experience, UI, UX, not really compromising on that, standing up things like in days, what used to take us some weeks earlier or a month or two. And then everybody rose to the occasion. Everybody worked as if, their life really depended on it. And that was, I think, a very, very important learning for us, that when adversity comes, that's where teamwork matters even more. Because that's when, companies which have strong work ethic, but also have strong team culture, will actually be able to deliver a lot. And I'm very proud to say that, we even won the Finovate Award this year for the best response to the COVID crisis. So we put in a lot of education material, a lot of content. We partner with AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs, to help their client base, which was, a lot of them are very small single member CPA firms, to actually go in and help their client base. And how they could have done that by getting access to digital platforms. And that's what we did. So I think that has been a great learning for all of us. That also has given our business a new dimension, that why we should focus more on digital technologies and how we make it's like cutting edge of, between that whole interaction between human beings and digital environment has to morph something actually.
So, and by the way, I think that one of the reasons why Biz2Credit was nominated was because the content was so good. I mean, I think there was a lot. I think everyone was racing to produce content on how to fill out a PPP form. You guys actually were very, very pragmatic, very straightforward, very much, here are the 1, 2, 3 things that you need to do. And I think it was all presented very clearly. What are the current demands that small businesses are having of Biz2Credit? I noticed that you guys are kind of leading with your assistance in helping get PPP forgiveness, for instance. What are the things that you're doing now, and what are the things that you think you'll be really focused on in 2022?
Yeah, so there are 2 or 3 things which we are doing now after the PPP program ended. One was to provide all our customers, whether they were direct business customers, and we also licensed our platform to a pretty large number of credit unions and small banks in the country, because they were the ones who were also almost like frontline workers and helping small businesses. So they needed some good digital platforms. So we provided them those. We also, built a state-of-the-art loan forgiveness platform where, we had earlier partnered and we still have partnership with AICPA. And then our ability to deliver everything in a very coherent manner, along with the right content. I think that is something is very important, because there was a lot of content and there is still a lot of content. But what is the right actionable content? What is the content that helps you either to get a loan or apply for forgiveness? And now that PPP has ended, we are seeing a very strong demand in the small business credit space. We are launching some new products over next 2 or 3 weeks time, which will be pretty much term loan kind of products. We are going to, and the other thing that we have done on our Biz2X platform is that we have built a whole Accelerate SBA platform where we are licensing it to large number of banks in US right now to put together a digital SBA lending program in less than 60 days. Mm-hmm. So that is going to be a game changer again, because SBA lending, even post PPP, is very hot. The government has given a lot of incentives to people to get more SBA loans, and at the same point of time, our lending, which we do with hedge funds, credit funds, pension funds, and even some of the banks, who are buying loans off our platform, we have also accelerated that, because what we are seeing is that while people got a lot of help from the government during PPP program and the restoration, the RTR program, they still need a lot of money. They need a lot of help to actually keep growing their business. And the businesses which are shut down for a longer period of time, the government money was extremely helpful, because that became a grant. So they could actually, not pile any more debt. And now they are more willing and ready to come back and start making some money.
So you had already recognized before the pandemic hit that there were underserved communities of small business, whether they be minority owned or women owned or urban businesses. And I would imagine that accelerated your attention to those particular segments of the small business population, accelerated for the last 18 months. What do you see as the future of better and more equitably capitalizing and financing those underserved communities?
Yeah, so we, like yesterday, we released a study on the Latino businesses, which we do every year. We actually talked about what their experiences were with the PPP loans. On our platform, we were very focused on serving underserved communities. So we have partnership with a lot of single member CPA firms. We gave them a CPA loan portal to fill out all the applications. We did a lot of webinars. We actually are very proud that even in the Latino community, we were 46% of our applicants got the money, compared to 39 or 40% in other places. We also deployed a lot of our platform technology from our Biz2X side of the business, used a lot of data, a lot of AI ML to streamline the process, and also the ability to guide people really well by producing a lot of content and putting it out there for them, even in their dashboards. And then I think our ability to fine tune all these things at a rapid pace and keep improving the platform was very key to serve the underserved communities, because underserved communities were the ones which had very little to no bank relationships. And even if they had one, it was not very strong. Second thing was that for a lot of them, language was a barrier. So we broke through that barrier by hiring people who could speak different languages in the company, and also giving them that confidence to attend the webinars, see for themselves that it was a very simple process. While it had a lot of checks and balances that we had built, for the customer, it was a very uniform and a simple process. And we really wanted to, help as many customers as possible. And we found that predominantly a lot of the underserved communities were suffering even more, because they didn't have a local bank branch, they didn't know how to work, they didn't have financial literacy. So that's where our virtual CFO tools and platforms became really handy to help a lot of these customers to get access to the government money, and also then apply for forgiveness the right way. because it's very important that, these businesses apply for forgiveness the right way. Otherwise, there is a probability that SBI can go and deny their forgiveness also.
So you're talking to an audience of your peers, people who are in the business like you of selling a product or service to small businesses at a very large scale across the country, asking you to be a little presumptuous. What's your advice based on what you've learned over the course of the last 18 months and frankly, in the last many years that you've been doing this? What's your advice for your peers as they really face the 2022 and beyond market of small businesses?
I think two things. One is business owners are very hungry to build relationships. So how you can do that? And we understand that, you cannot hire hundreds of people or to do that. So the right technology platforms with the right set of people is very important, because that even comes more handy during bad times, because people remember relationships the most, during bad time, and they want to go to those people whom they really trust, so building that trust becomes very important. So whatever we do or whatever we say that we can deliver, that's the only thing that we advertise. We won't advertise overdo our marketing, overdo our advertising just for short-term growth. So being long-term is very important, long-term vision, and being truthful, being consistent, and let people build trust with you. Let them come to you with their problems, and then you should be able to solve it. You should be able to get to a point A to point B without, doing any kind of or taking any kind of steps which damages your brand. Because what your brand really stands in the SMB space is for trust and ability to deliver. So I think that those are the two most important things that the customers are looking for. And I think what our challenge was that, while we were a very digitally savvy company, but still trying to do everything on a Zoom call, every single meeting, every single, kind of, interaction, even with your colleagues, was something that was, that created concerns among the employees. It also created concern that, how the camaraderie will be maintained and how new people will learn from more experienced people.
I think that's terrific advice. You're well positioned to answer this last question, I think. Are you optimistic about the future, specifically the future in 2022 of small business in the US?
I think I'm very confident that, the economy is coming back. Small businesses are very resilient lot. I think where small businesses have done really well is that they have become very innovative. They've realized the value of going digital. They have realized value of, doing things in a way that doesn't make them dependent on large companies. That's something very important that people have to understand, because if you're not really, like your success as a small business owner really depends by focusing on your customer and your employees. That's it. You don't need to worry about competition. You don't need to worry about somebody with deeper pockets than you. And I think the commitment and the ability of the founders in a small business to go and invest everything into, in a very digital way is very important. So investing in digital platforms, investing in your own people, investing in giving them the right tools, and then investing in their training, and especially mental health, has been four of the most critical things that we have done to retain our talent and to grow our talent base. And we have seen a lot of net new addition in our team over the last 2 months. So I think a lot of that stuff has worked out for us because we are very customer focused as well as employee focused.
Well, this has been terrific. I mean, it's easy to understand why you guys were recognized by our Leaders League and by our influence circles as really one of those that really did small business assistance right in an incredibly important area, which is their money and their access to capital. So thanks so much for doing this. I very much appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Bye.